post-independence, the literacy rate is very low in India. For those, the radio communication, especially for the rural people, grassroots level, the radio medium is very useful. Later, some 90s, 50s, and 60s, television introduced in India. Television is also some way a good role played in the development of India in the form of the communication, widespread of the communication. Now we have print media, broadcasting media, and social media. We will discuss now what is broadcasting. Broadcasting is the distribution of audio and or video signals in the form of programs to a number of recipients like listeners, for example, for the radio, or viewers, example, television news channels or television programs that belongs to a large group. This may be in a public or relatively large audience with the public. In some countries, there is a public broadcasting only. In many countries, there is a public and private broadcasting. The term broadcast was coined by early radio engineers, already we have discussed. The final leg of broadcast distribution is how the signal gets to the listener or viewer. It may come over the air as with a radio station or TV station to an antenna or towers. We call it is a receiver also, and may come through cable TV. Earlier we have a cable channels some 20 or 15 years ago. Nowadays we have a DTH, means digitalization. So it is a part of the Indian broadcasting policy. Now we are seeing in our homes digital channels through DTH or sometimes cable operators also. Now coming to the particularly about the public broadcasting. Public broadcasting includes radio, television, and other electronic media outlets whose primary mission is public service. We see in television means Doordarshan, only the commercials means advertisements which are just related to government schemes, policies, main. Whereas in public broadcasting, there is a number of advertisements on the products, services, means private organization. This is the main difference between public broadcasting and private broadcasting. The main aim, mission of the public broadcasting is public service. Public broadcasting may be nationally or locally operated depending on the country or the station. In some countries, public broadcasting is run by a single organization, or some other countries have multiple public broadcasting organizations operating regionally or in different languages. The primary mission of the public broadcasting, that of public service, already we know it, speaking to and engaging as a citizen. The British model has been widely accepted as a universal definition. What is that model? We will know. The model embedded the following principles. universal geographic accessibility, and universal appeal. Why public broadcasting? Because it attention on minorities, contribution to national identity and sense of community, distance from vested interests, direct funding and universality of payment, complication in good programming rather than numbers, guidelines that liberate rather than restrict. These are the main principles of the public broadcasting. What is broadcast journalism? Broadcast journalism is a type of news reporting presents the public electronically or by radio instead of being public in newspapers. Media in broadcast journalism includes television, radio, and also the internet. Broadcast articles can be written as packages, voiceovers, and sound on tape, SEC. What is SEC? A SEC is an edited set of video clips for a news story and is common on television. Commercials. Generally, the radio advertisements we call the term is commercial. Commercial means an advertisement. Don't be confused. Commercial means in radio it is an advertisement. Radio was the first medium for broadcast journalism. Many of the first radio stations were corporate community radio ventures, not making a profit. Later, radio advertising to pay for programs was pioneered in radio. Later, and still, the television displaced radio and newspapers as the main news source for most of the publics in industrialized countries. In India, Prasar Bharati is the India's public broadcaster. However, it does have a commercial advertising on it. It is an autonomous corporation of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. It is an autonomous institution under the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting of Government of India. It's not a state point. Again, in Prasar Bharati, there is two separate networks. One network for television, that is a Doordarshan, and another network for radio, that is a All India Radio. We call it is a Akashvani. Prasar Bharati was established in 1997 following a demand that the government-owned broadcasters in India should be given autonomy like those in many other countries. The Parliament of India passed an act to grant this autonomy in 1990, but it was not enacted until September 15th of 1997. Here we have to know about the definition of the broadcasting. Broadcast journalism is a type of news reporting presented to the public electronically or by radio instead of being published in newspapers. Broadcast radio was the first medium. You know, many of the first radio stations are cooperative. Here we know some history of the radio. The first radio station was established in Bombay. Means that is a club, radio club of some amateurs. Broadcast journalism conventions. There is in broadcast journalism, news stories begin with a general simple sentence signaling the beginning of a story. The opening sentence in a broadcast news story functions as a cue that begins a story segment. Now coming to the broadcast journalism types. Radio journalism. Radios is impact, very much impact on human life is due primarily to its immediacy and flexibility. Radio instrument is easy to move from one place to another compared with the television, and radio instrument is not required electricity supply uncontinuous. Means we can use with the batteries also. Even though nowadays we have a mobile phones, in the mobile phones there is a radio stations available. So this is the flexibility for the radio. Even though after the smartphones arrive, we know this, we are seeing television programs on smartphones. That is a technology, emerging of the technology. But even though radio is some flexibility than the physical form of television. Radio programs consist of recorded music, news, sports, talk, commercials, etc. Music, some music programs conducted by the organizers of the radio, and news documentaries, news bulletins. Generally, we call bulletin for news, and news features, news documentaries, and also sports. Coming to the sports, we know the commentaries of some games, some sports like cricket. Cricket commentary is very familiar in the radio. Talks with the professionals, with the eminent personalities, businessmen, politicians. Coming to the commercials. Commercials means, that is it's a one kind of advertisement, paid form. Radio offers generally undistinguished fare. It obviously has broad popular appeal. Radio transmissions are of two types. One is AM and another one is FM, amplitude modulation. So that is a limitation of airing. Some AM radios, a range of 600 to 1000. Some radio modulations between the 600, 500 to 15,000 kilometers, like. And coming to the frequency modulation, that is the FM radios. In some cities, we see the limitation, the range between 20 to 50 kilometers of that city. Now coming to the community radio, there is an other types other than AM and FM. Community radio, for example, Sangam Daily, very nearby our in Hyderabad, that is in Telangana. Community radio, Sangam radio is one popular community radio. And there is a number of radio stations in the education institutions, like in Hyderabad Central University, University of Hyderabad, that is a central university located in Hyderabad. There is also community radio. And some areas, there is a radio stations. Ham radio, amateur radio, this is. Now we have a new gadgets like the smartphones, mobile phones. So ham radio, satellite radio, not require any particular instrument. Over the smartphone, we can listen the satellite radio. But now what happened? The satellite radio, ham radios are their power maybe reduced. Now coming to the television journalism, The power of television, the power of television to shape contemporary life is surprising. What viewers see and hear influence their attitudes, their manners, their speech, and often their daily habits also. Television requires more teamwork. As compared with radio journalism, television requires more teamwork. For example, a reporter, television reporters, and along with a camera person. Even today, with lightweight digital cameras and laptops, and for editing, computer editing, all these opportunities we have. And here, some multitask work, uh, multitasking work is given to the radio journalist. So you need to report the text and you need to capture the images, capture the video with the camera. So one person, you need to do two activities. And coming to the studio, again, you need to, because you need to editing also, video editing. Because small news channels, like now we have a YouTube channels, so there is no such a large crew to work for that news channel, that YouTube news channel. For that, a single person or 2 or 3%, they can gather the information, they record the video, and they do editing also. Television journalists tend to be active extroverts because the production process works only if there is a constant flow of clear communication, whereas radio newsroom can sometimes resemble a library. Reading a story in a newspaper requires more concentration than watching on television, because television is a audio visual communication. Newspaper is a only print communication. A routine newscast on a local station or the network simply sketches even the main stories of the day, devoting about 1 to 2 minutes to major stories and barely a sentence or two to secondary ones. All this is happens in television journalism. Now coming to the film communication. Already I have explained the difference between the journalism and the communication, means the television and the radio journalism and film communication. Film, film is an instrument of communication. All filmmakers are basically communicators of their ideas, thoughts, and vision. But films sometimes may be fact, means true love, true stories we listen. Sometimes maybe it is a fiction. Sometimes it is maybe an idea of a filmmaker or a director. So there is a no truth, there is a no facts. That is why we could not call the film journalism. Film communication only we call it in general. They want to tell stories through pictures, not words. They creatively convert their ideas, feelings into moving images so that the whole world can see what they are in their mind. Though these pictures, they communicate to the masses. So film is a mass communication, but not the journalism. Film as a mass communication, a social process by which expressions of a human needs takes place and the people influence each other. See mouth publicity. If a film, some good message oriented film, the mouth publicity will go. So if there is a message in that film, many audience viewers see the film. Film also played a major role in the society because earlier days, some 1950s and 60s, 60s, 70s, there is a n number of discrimination of in a caste, in a communities, in a societies. So there is need awareness. So film communication is the best point, best medium for the communication for the mass people because they don't know reading, writing. So the film communication is used in those days. The basic tool of communication is a language, but communication can also be performed through pictures, pictures, and artifacts, artifacts. Cinema is one of the strongest medium of communication. It can communicate from poor to rich. It is, say, in the cinema hall, the charge means the ticket cost is low, and there is also high price also. Illiterate, literate, urban, rural, kids, adult, there is no difference. Everyone can see film. But see here we discussed about the kids and adults, but some films is particularly for the particular persons. That is a different matter. We will discuss in later units. The process of film communication, in a nutshell, who says what in which channel to whom with what effect. This is a SNCR model of Berlo. In your semester one, there is a model, SNCR model. That is fixed in the film communication. The director or a filmmaker is the sender. He gives a message or some information through his film, which is channel or medium. Film is a channel or a medium through which he communicates to the receiver or audience. So we know the audience, it will come. The end part is receiver part is audience. Apart from entertainment, film also creates awareness and tries to educate people. It disseminates messages. Broadcasting in the summary, broadcasting is the distribution of audio and video signals to a number of recipients like listeners, viewers that belongs to a large group, a mass media, mass communication, mass public. So far we have discussed on the unit 1. Now we will go to the unit number 2. Is you have any doubts? On the unit number 1, unit number 2, the origin and the growth of the radio. In this unit, we will discuss the origin and growth of radio, All India Radio, that is Akashvani, and frequency module, community radio, satellite radio, digital radio, Prasar Bharati, and news service division of All India Radio. The operations of All India Radio begins formally in 1936. There is actually earlier 1923, there is a club, but that is limited to one area, that is a Bombay Radio Club. But coming to the All India Radio, begins in the 1936 as a government organization, then the government, British government, with the clear objectives to inform, educate, and entertain the masses. Now coming to the radio broadcasting. Radio broadcasting is the distribution of audio signals that transmit program to an audience. In British India, the broadcasting began in July 1923 with the programs by the Radio Club of Bombay and other radio clubs. Bombay station began on 23 July 1927 and the Kolkata, now we are calling Kolkata, but earlier it is a Calcutta station, followed on 26 August 1927. On 1st March 1930, however, the company went into liquidation. The government took over the broadcasting facilities, beginning the Indian State Broadcasting Service, ISBS, on 1st April 1930. The then government, that is a British government, on an experimental basis for 2 years and permanently in May 1932. On June 8, 1936, the ISBS was renamed All India Radio. Nowadays All India Radio. We are calling now All India Radio. This is some historical points because origin. So that is why we are discussing the years and the locations and the aims also. On 1st October 1939, the external service began with the broadcast in Pashto. The Pashto is the language from the Afghanistan. It was intended to counter the radio propaganda from Germany directed to Afghanistan, Iran, and Arab nations. When India became independent in 1947, the AIR network had only 6 stations in Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, Lucknow, and Tiruchirappalli. On 3rd October 1957, the Vivid Bharati service was launched to compete with Radio Ceylon. Radio Ceylon means nowadays Radio Sri Lanka. Television broadcasting began in Delhi in 1959 as a part of AIR. Why we are knowing here about the television and Doordarshan? Because earlier television is also part in the All India Radio services only. That is why just we are here discussing. But was a split from the radio network as a Doordarshan on 1st April 1976. FM broadcasting began on 23 July 1977 in Madras and was expanded during the 1990s. Earlier, only the public broadcasting, FM only. Later, we are experiencing now number of private FM channels. First channel, FM is from the Madras. Why radio? What are the characteristics? What is the scope for the radio? So we will know why the radio is significance. Radio is the most appropriate medium for dissemination of information and entertainment in rural areas, since it is a local, inexpensive, and can be heard even while one continues working. Farmers, for example, they do their cultivation works, and while they listen the radio, it is possible. And literates, illiterates, local and urban, rural and urban, all these, there is a no barriers. Everyone can access the radio. That is why the most appropriate medium for the mass people, mass gathering. It can serve both as an independent medium for the dissemination of information or be a support medium for circular learning along with printed material and field work. This is for educational purpose. Earlier, for education, for awareness, in post-independence, in 1950s, 60s, the radio is the main, it's a vital role played in the development. In the communication, information dissemination, the radio is the only scope. Because there is we have newspapers, we have newspapers, but the reaching to the rural areas, it is not possible. If it is printed today, the newspaper printed today, it will circulate, it will reach the rural people by a day or 2 days. But radio is a instant communication. Immediately it reaches some particular time. There is a bulletin timings in the morning session, afternoon session, evening session, and also in the night hours. So the rural people who knows some time, they spend some time to listen that news bulletin. All India Radio, the Indian Broadcasting Company, was started in 1927 as a private enterprise. Private enterprise is the Bombay Radio Club. It was an amalgamation of amateur radio clubs which were started by individuals in Madras, Bombay, Lahore, and other major cities in the then British India areas. All India Radio has a leading role as a public service broadcaster and also national service broadcaster. Objectives of the AR already be known. The All India Radio is All India Radio's aim is the public service. Here some objectives: to disseminate information freely and without bias, promote education and provide entertainment with a variety of human development programs in the existing languages and dialects spread all over the country and abroad for enrichment of the life of the people. Here, 2 points: the language and dialects. Language, we have a language diversity in India. In each part, the people speaks in various variety of kind of languages, and some forward is there. Every 50, 60 kilometers, there is a new dialect in Indian. Even though in a particular language, there is a dialect in some radius of 20 to 200 or 100 square kilometers. So the radio, we have a number of radio stations. One radio station is located in Warangal. There is some programs who records in the Warangal. So the dialects, some dialects related to Warangal or surrounding areas, in the program it reflects. One radio station is located in Visakhapatnam or Vijayawada or Kurnool. So the local dialects will explore in this radio station, from these radio stations. Another major objective is to upload and promote national unity and integrity, democratic values and fundamental rights, and enshrined in the Constitution of India and the Indian culture, heritage and archives. One more objective is to provide adequate coverage to diverse cultures. India is already diversity, and sports, games and youth affairs. One more objective is to promote social justice, safeguarding the rights of working classes, minorities and tribal communities. These are the main objectives. Here we have to know about the All India Radio Code of 1970. The current broadcasting policy is based on the AIR Code of 1970. The broadcast do not permit. Okay, I am repeated. Do not permit criticism of friendly countries. We have some friendly countries. So there is no broadcasting on criticism of friendly countries. And attack on religion or communities. This is not permitted. And attack anything absence or defamatory or anything that incites the violence, anything amounting to contempt of court is not permitted in the broadcasting. In radio stations, attack on a political party by name is also not permitted to broadcast. Criticism on any state or any center or the center or anything showing disrespect to the Constitution or advocating change in the Constitution by violence is not permitted to broadcast in radios, either in All India Radio, that is Akashvani, or a private radio channels. But all radio channels, private or public, must maintain the code of AIR 1970. Coming to the program patterns of the radio, the major objective of radio program over the All India Radio is to inform, to educate, and to entertain the viewers. 3 objectives to inform, to educate, and to entertain the receiver, viewers, or listeners, whatever the word, but the audience. These spoken word programs form like a news bulletin where the reader reads the news, talks, where the persons who participated in that talk, they disclose, they discuss on some particular points, particular subject, particular scheme, particular policy, whatever it is. It is discussion. That is one kind of program pattern. And discussions, interviews, educational programs for school and college students, and audience specific programs. These are some major patterns in radio. The audience specific programs include those directed at a rural and urban business, and women, children, and youth. In normally, we don't see in FM channels or private FM channels, they could not focus on the rural, they could not focus on women, they could not focus on the children. But their target audience are the youth in private FM channels. And sometimes maybe in various kind of age groups, but they could not focus on the particular minority sections like women, children. Radio features and documentaries. Radio feature means we have discussed about the news bulletin. News bulletin means there is a soft news and hard news. Hard news means latest news. Means a minute ago, an event happened. That is a hard news. It will cover in case the document that bulletin is running that time, it will release in that bulletin. So hard news means latest one. It is happens some hours ago or some at least a previous day. But in radio features, that is a combination of the news and also opinions and some backgrounds. The period may be 1 week or a 50 days or a 30 days. So all these covered, all the news related to particular point, which is expresses in the radio features. The same kind of nature in radio documentaries also. Radio documentaries, particularly they focus on the historical point, historical fort, historical events. So that is a radio documentary. That is a informative, but not exactly news, but it comes as a news and informative. Another major pattern program is a music programs. There is some titles for the music programs. They play songs, they play some instrumentals. So all this comes under the music programs. Now, here we will discuss about the frequency module radio. FM radio in general we call it is. FM radio was introduced in the 1960s. And also at the same time, cable satellite radios also we have. After internet emerged in India, we are in 1990s. There is a world space, one satellite radio. Satellite radio and cable radio, FM radio, all these are the part of the FM radio only. Because it will come in a limited areas. FM broadcasting is a broadcasting technology pioneered by Edwin Howard Armstrong to provide high fidelity sound over broadcast radio. Broadcast and narrowcast. Earlier we have discussed broadcast means the frequency range is large, like at 1500 kilometers, 2000 kilometers. In a narrowcast, that is limited. In FM radio, the limit is 50 to 60 kilometers. In community radio, the limitation is at 5 to 10 kilometers only. Private FM took off only after the monopoly of All India Radio came to an end in 1999, when the industry was opened up to private commercial FM radio. Times FM, now it is a radio Mirchi, began operation in 1993 in Ahmedabad. Until 1993, All India Radio, that is AIR, a government undertaking, was the only radio broadcaster in India. We have some FM channels now we are listening. Radio City, SFM, ETV FM. The range of the FM channels, it is depends between 20 kilometers and 60 kilometers based on the city areas. Some cities like second tier of cities like Karimnagar, Ramagundam, there is a 20 kilometer frequency. Some mega cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, there is a 60 kilometer of radiation. The range of FM in between the 0 to 60 kilometers. Now coming to the community radio. Community radio is a radio made to be broadcast over a short radius. Already we have discussed within the 5 to 10 kilometers, and particularly for the particular community. For example, Sangam radio is for the particular village, Machinur village of the Medak district. And sometimes Hyderabad Central University, there is also community radio. For the aim is their target audience are the students of that community or that university only. And sometimes some focuses on the milk producers and farmers, and some particular point of view. If other like production, if any production related to, for example, production of sugar, it's a sugar cane farmers of that limited radius, 5 to 10 kilometer radius, 5 to 10 kilometers of radius. Satellite radio is one of the fastest growing entertainment services in the world and is making its presence felt in India in a small but positive way. World Space, founded in 1990 once, and it is winded up in a little time. Later again started in 1990. Now there is a no what is called no popularity. So satellite radio is now less popularity because of after evolving of the smartphones. So that is why now satellite radio are minimum popularity. Digital audio broadcasting also same kind of technology. This technology arose out of a European project called Eureka 147. And broadcasting using this technology was launched by the British Broadcasting Corporation in 1995 in London. Already we have much discussed on the Prasar Bharati. The Parliament has passed an act to set up Prasar Bharati in 1990, but it was not implemented until September 15, 1997. With this act, all the property, assets, debts, liabilities, etc. of Akashvani and Doordarshan were transferred to Prasar Bharati. News Services Division of AIR. The News Service Division of All India Radio disseminates news and comments, and we have discussed about the radio features to listeners in India and also abroad. Some 27 news bulletins in 1939-40. AIR today puts more than 650 bulletins daily, around 50 to 50 hours in 90 languages, dialects in the home, regional and external services also. There is a news-based programs like not exactly one news bulletin confined with one news bulletin. They are producing news features, news documentaries also, and also coverage of parliamentary proceedings. While the parliamentary session is continuous in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the coverage will come in the radio channel. And sometimes we see sports commentaries like cricket sports, and also hockey, the major sports. The coverage of commentaries of sports also is broadcasting in radios by the News Service Division of All India Radio. So far, we have discussed two lessons. Further, we will discuss in detail in the next lessons in the next class.